Vikings were huge fans of onions. The Vikings actually cared about hygiene. They were by no means Goliath-sized warriors, and they proved shockingly progressive in strange ways. 1. The Vikings used onions to gauge the severity of wounds. In Viking times, doctors had very few tools. They had to get creative to diagnose injuries. Onions played a bizarre yet pragmatic role. After major battles, many soldiers suffered gut wounds. It was crucial to know if the guts were pierced. The Vikings fed these men a strong onion soup. It also had other smelly herbs and spices. Once the onion mix went through their systems, medics leaned in to sniff the wound. The onion smell meant the intestines were punctured. Back then, there were no ways to fix intestine holes. An onion smell meant certain death. 2. The Vikings weren't as huge as they are often depicted. Many imagine the Vikings as hulking muscle-bound giants. This idea of their size is not quite accurate. The real Vikings had a much slimmer build. Most Viking men stood around 5 feet 7 inches tall. This was an average height for that era. 3. Viking men loved to look stylish. They took great pride in their appearance. They spent hours grooming their hair and beards. Carved combs and tweezers were must-have accessories. Some Vikings even used a primitive form of hair dye. 4. The Vikings kept very clean and bathed at least once a week. The Vikings valued bathing for ritual purity. Staying fresh showed self-respect and discipline. At Viking longhouses, bathing areas had heated rooms. Cleaning oneself was a weekly routine. The Vikings used bundles of twigs as rough brushes while bathing. Even on voyages, Vikings found ways to bathe. Soldiers brought well-stocked grooming kits along. Razors, tweezers, and ear scoops kept beards trimmed. Vikings had very particular toilet customs too. They used designated outhouses, away from residences. 5. Mushroom-induced visions prepared Vikings for battle. The Vikings had odd rituals before fighting. Eating magic mushrooms was a strange tradition. The mushrooms contained a drug called psilocybin. It causes hallucinations and distorted perceptions. As the mushroom's effects kicked in, the Vikings felt energized. They believed spirits and gods were possessing them. The visions made the Vikings feel brave and unstoppable. 6. Vikings, not Columbus, discovered America. Many think Columbus was the first European to reach America, but the Vikings actually got there much earlier. The Vikings called the area they explored Vinland. Explorer Leif Erikson reached Vinland around 1000 AD. This was almost 500 years before Columbus arrived. In 1492, Erikson established a short-lived settlement. Stories in the sagas also record Viking voyages to Vinland. They describe North American lands and skirmishes with indigenous peoples. 7. The Vikings loved board games. Vikings were not just fierce warriors and explorers. They also loved playing board games in their free time. One popular Viking game was called Nefertafel. It involved strategy and careful moves on a checkered board. One side had a king piece. They tried to get safely to a corner.